Good evening, I'm Savannah Kelly. Welcome to APTN National News. The Pimicikamak Cree Nation in northern Manitoba continues the cleanup this week after the community lost power on December 28th for up to 110 hours in -30 weather. More than 4,000 people had to be evacuated as water pipes in homes quickly froze and burst in a matter of hours. Since that outage, people have been working around the clock to assess and repair hundreds of homes. The Cree Nation's chief admits they are tired and is demanding that the Canadian military be sent in to help. Kashechewan reports.
I hope I get a new house. Because this house was built here first before the ONR got built.
Murphy Trout is waiting for life to go back to normal. However, he realized a water pipe in his crawl space was leaking on Tuesday.
I could probably shut it off, man.
Water has since filled that crawl space, damaging the home and some of his belongings. Trout lives in one of the older houses in the community, and if it becomes unlivable, he says he has nowhere else to stay.
Been living here for about 3 years with my brother because he was sick. I had to move in with him.
So far, up to 800 homes have been assessed, with about 200 in need of major repairs. Pimicikamak, which is located about 530 kilometers north of Winnipeg, went without power and heat for almost 5 days after a Manitoba hydro power line went down on December 28th. Up to 4,000 residents have been evacuated to Winnipeg, Thompson, The Paw, and Flin Flon and are still waiting to return home. Nearly 20 plumbers are currently restoring water to about 100 seniors' homes.
I just want to help them a little bit. But it's impossible to do everything just like that, eh?
The Cree Nation's lead plumber says little could be done to prevent pipes from freezing, as it only took hours for lines to break, and many homes do not have a backup generator.
Could this have been prevented? Like if you had some advanced knowledge of how long it was actually going to take that you guys would be without power?
I don't think so, because it was cold. It was cold, like.
So even 24 hours we
even like a few hours, pump would be cracked.
Heat trace lines all were not operational, causing the water to freeze. Plumbings were all splitting because of it. The pumps would be the main thing. Shut off there, crawl spaces getting flooded, lots of damage, of course. It's going to be a considerable amount of weeks, if not months, to repair everything, get them online. We are trying to go for essential first, being seniors and children, and then moving on.
Frozen water lines weren't the only issue. Up to 5 homes were lost to fire after portable space heaters shorted out or overheated. This is one of 3 water treatment plants for the community. The infrastructure here is outdated, and plant operators have had to make repairs using only duct tape. Water is being shipped to homes, but the water is straight from the Nelson River and needs to be boiled. In the neighboring Cross Lake, cleanup and repairs continues. This home's basement has to be completely gutted and replaced after water filled the entire basement. First Nation, provincial and federal leaders visited Pimicikamak on Wednesday to assess the damage and held a closed-door meeting with leadership.
They're here to validate our truth, because nobody seems to believe what we're saying here. And it's unfortunate that we have to do this.
On Tuesday, the federal government announced it will assist with $1.4 million for aid and repairs. However, Chief Monias says those much-needed resources have yet to be made available. Officials also say the repairs could be in the millions, with many more months of work needed.
We need our infrastructure replaced and repaired at the moment, immediately, and replaced. Our water and sewer infrastructure is basically gone.
Chief Monias also wants the Canadian military to be sent in to help get the infrastructure up and running more quickly and keep the community from getting fatigue. For now, Northern and Arctic Affairs Minister Rebecca Chartrand would not make that promise.
From my personal perspective, is a local approach, right? We need to access all of the plumbers and technicians that are local. This is an opportunity to tap into, local and Indigenous owned businesses.
Chiefs were quick to respond.
We need the Army. They can actually provide all the technicians and all the engineers and to mobilize en masse and get things done. And we exhausted our local resources. I'm tired. Everybody's tired here. And everybody's saying, well, let's use local resources. Well, people haven't slept maybe with 2 hours.
This is a catastrophe, and the response needed requires all resources available that the nation needs at their disposal. In order to address this crisis, there has to be external resources. This is a national emergency now.
We have made the commitment that after this visit to community today, that we would meet again and assess, what is the damage and what is the approach that's needed. So I'm not ruling out that I'm not ruling out that the Army won't be deployed, but that is not my decision.
Premier Wab Kinew said he would not get in the way of military support, but was short on announcing any provincial assistance. Kinew did, however, order Manitoba Hydro to provide an after-action review and requested a new power line to be built along the main highway.
Will that make a difference? How feasible is it? That's a clear ask that I heard today, and so we're asking Hydro to take a serious look at that, and as part of their review of the situation.
For 48 years, we've been asking to reroute that distribution line. For 48 years, they've been seeing that deteriorate. They knew there was a problem there. There was a big problem, and they ignored it, and it's basically neglect.
Right now, it is unclear if the military will still be sent in to help. However, with each passing day, evacuated residents grow more tired and restless. Chief Monias is advising evacuees to stay put as many homes are still unsafe to live in and the repairs and cleanup continue. Cree Nation, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
And an update to that story. On Friday afternoon, Eleanor Olszewski, the minister responsible for emergency management, announced on X that the federal government will send a specialized team from the Canadian Armed Forces to Pimicikamak Cree Nation. The minister says the team will provide targeted assessment and advisory support that will focus on the water treatment and sewage, power generation, project management, and logistics. A First Nation in Northern Ontario continues to struggle without access to safe drinking water after its water treatment system stopped working this past weekend. The Kashechewan First Nation is a remote fly-in community located near James Bay. The community says the situation has created a public safety crisis, with sewage backing up into homes and contaminating water. They have also declared a local state of emergency and are making evacuation plans. In an emailed statement to APTN News, Indigenous Services says the government is assisting the community with repairs to the water treatment system, distribution of bottled water, and evacuation planning. Kashechewan First Nation Chief Ozea Wesley told APTN the community is making plans to evacuate 2,200 residents after the nursing station was flooded.
I feel sorry for the children right now. They have to go through this time, 2026. It's really sad to see children, babies have to leave with this cold weather, going to hosting communities, try to get the basic need of water, to this what's going on in our community. At the same time, it's education is really important for the students. Now they have to miss this these days because of infrastructure failure.
A search of the Thunder Bay landfill tied to the investigation into the murder of an Indigenous woman is over. Investigators were searching for the partial remains of Deborah Anishinaabe, whose body was discovered in December 2024 after being reported missing. However, the search of the landfill did not uncover any additional evidence in the case. APTN's Mike McDonald reports.
Anishinaabe Nation Grand Chief Alvin Fiddler says the organization has been doing what it can to support the family of Deborah Anishinaabe as the investigation into her death continues.
While all of us hoped for more evidence to be found with respect to this search, that didn't happen. But the family's wish is that the search needs to continue.
25-year-old Levi Michael Lawson is charged with second-degree murder and indignity to a human body in connection with the case, and Thunder Bay's police chief believes the case against him is strong.
We have a very strong case. We have evidence to suggest that the person that we believe is responsible will face the justice at the end of the day, and we will go through the court system as any case. But we believe we have a strong case, and this was just a search for further evidence and for the dignity of Deborah.
Grand Chief Fiddler says investigators have been regularly communicating with the family.
Communications between the police and Nan and the family and the community. We have regular calls or meetings and phone calls just to let everyone know that what's going on, especially the family, for them to know what the latest developments are with respect to this case.
And Fiddler reiterated the importance of providing closure to the family.
A lot of mixed emotions for sure, but I think all of us hope that all of Deborah be found so that they can lay her to rest and put that part of that painful chapter behind them.
Mike McDonald, APTN National News, Thunder Bay.
A family member of a man who died at a shelter in downtown Whitehorse just over a year ago has launched a civil suit over his death. As Sarah Connors reports, it's the latest legal action connected to deaths at that shelter.
The stepdaughter of an Indigenous man who died at the Whitehorse Emergency Shelter is suing the Yukon government and the shelter's operator over his death. Nikita Sarinko Bailey filed a statement of claim in the Supreme Court of Yukon last month. APTN previously spoke with Sarinko Bailey about her stepfather, Leonard Capablanc. The 56-year-old, who was a member of the Fort Nelson First Nation, fatally overdosed in a shower stall at the shelter in December of 2024. According to the lawsuit, Capablanc entered the shower room several times the night of his death, which it argues should have alerted staff there was a heightened risk of overdose. The lawsuit alleges Capablanc was left unattended in the shower room for about 40 minutes, despite an internal policy requiring staff to check on high-risk areas like bathrooms and shower stalls every 15 minutes. The claim also alleges no paramedics were on site the night of Capablanc's death. Staff later found Capablanc unresponsive, and he was pronounced dead shortly after paramedics arrived. The lawsuit argues Capablanc's death was, quote, clearly foreseeable, and accuses the government and Connective of negligence in his death. The lawsuit is seeking punitive and monetary damages. Neither the government nor Connective have filed a statement of defense. This is the fourth lawsuit filed in recent years relating to shelter deaths, two of which were settled out of court last fall. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
We need to step aside for a short break. Coming up, we'll give you a sneak peek at an Indigenous horror film that just wrapped filming in Winnipeg. Stay with us. Welcome back to APTN National News. One of the North's oldest and most well-respected hand games players died last month. As Sarah Connors tells us, the beloved stick gambler leaves behind a long legacy that won't be forgotten.
Wherever there was hand games, you could be sure to spot Amos Dick. Perhaps better known as Famous Amos, the beloved Casca elder from Ross River was a staple of the Yukon's hand game circuit, playing in tournaments across the territory and beyond. The legendary stick gambler played right up until the very end. He died last month.
So many people start playing hand games because of him. It's going to be missed, so much here, especially in our community, but all over the place,
Dick was likely in his 90s, though no one we spoke to could say for sure exactly how old he was. He told us in 2018 he'd been playing hand games for 75 years.
I say 1942, but 16 years old.
Beyond hand games, the old-timer was an expert hunter and worked as an outfitting guide for close to 30 years. Those who knew him say no one knew the land better than him.
And there's not one place in our Casca homeland that he has a footprint.
Dick was also a big believer in passing on traditional knowledge. He taught many young people how to skin hides and make drums, tools, and snowshoes.
He was a legend, and he brought a lot of pride within the youth to learn hand games and to really honor the traditional ways.
Those traditional ways stayed with him until his final days. While laying unresponsive in the hospital, drummers played cultural songs, ending with challenge songs.
The drums would be going. He'd get up. You wanted to get up. And stick Campbell.
His loved ones say his death is a big loss for the Yukon's hand games community. For her son, hand games just won't be the same without him.
That's the kind of person we've been living with, and it's going to be really missed.
But as long as the drums keep beating, famous Amos will always be remembered.
I'm getting old.
Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
A new horror movie starring Indigenous actors just wrapped up filming in Winnipeg. Based off of the director's lived experiences with intergenerational trauma, it follows one woman's fight with her inner demons and the real monster that haunts her. Sav Jonesa brings us the sneak peek of Ancestral Beasts.
Main character Elise is on her way to confront intergenerational trauma and the monster that it takes form in this scene of upcoming feature film Ancestral Beasts. Red River Métis director and producer Tim Riedel wrote the story based on his experience as the son of a 60s scoop survivor struggling with mental illness.
This film's theme is the curses that we inherit are not our fault, but what we let them become is our responsibility. And I hope people who see the film leave thinking about how that theme has existed in their own individual lives.
Co-leading the film are The Order's Morgan Holstrom and Little Bird's Darla Contois. It follows Holstrom's character, a Red River Métis woman who, after a mental breakdown, tries to heal her trauma by journeying back to her ancestral home, only for a demon to haunt her and threaten her loved ones. Riedel says the demon is an allegory for severe mental illness. He hopes the film reminds viewers to be compassionate to those struggling with disorders like borderline personality.
It's not easy for people to navigate these complex institutions and systems when they're suffering from a severe mental health disorder, yet they need the help the most. So that's why it's important to tell the story in a way that people pay attention to.
The film's cast is almost entirely Indigenous and was shot in Winnipeg, the homeland of the Red River Métis. Riedel says the location was non-negotiable.
Living out east now, it's more inconvenient for me to be away for a long time from my wife and my children and whatnot. But whenever I'm here on these lands, I'm home, and so I couldn't think of telling a story anywhere else but here.
A turning point in his career comprised mostly of documentaries. Ancestral Beasts is Riedel's first horror flick, but his innate desire to bring truth to his work persisted. Riedel consulted elders, cultural advisors, and Indigenous psychologists during the film's development so that the story could be told in a respectful way.
To me, it doesn't seem much different from my documentary work, except for instead of me turning the lens on people from cultures and communities outside of my own, I'm turning the lens inward on myself and my community.
Ancestral Beasts just finished shooting and is headed into post-production. A release date has yet to be announced, but Riedel says the film will travel to remote Indigenous communities so they can get the first look or scare. Sav Jonesa, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
We need to take one more quick break. Still to come, we'll tell you how a singer-songwriter is sharing the voices of people in the justice system through music. Welcome back. An author, advocate, lawyer, 60s scoop, and residential school survivor from Red Pheasant Cree Nation in Saskatchewan has been appointed to the Order of Canada. It was announced New Year's Eve that Michelle Good is one of 80 to receive the honor this year. Good obtained her law degree in her 40s and spent more than 14 years advocating for residential school survivors. In 2014, she earned her Master of Fine Arts degree in creative writing. Her debut novel, Five Little Indians, follows residential school survivors as they struggle to rebuild their lives after leaving the schools. It won several awards, including the Governor General's Award for English Language Fiction. Good says her journey from activism to law to writing is not a change in purpose, but a change in approach.
Of doing the best I can to improve circumstances for Indigenous peoples. And so, and of that, representing survivors was probably the most important, meaningful experience of my life. And it really was the springboard for making, finally, decisions about writing.
There will be an induction ceremony where Good will receive her Order of Canada to be hosted by the Governor General of Canada in Ottawa. The date has yet to be announced. An Alberta artist who traveled to Saskatchewan for work has created a musical album with an unlikely group of co-writers. Her album, titled Why the Caged Bird Sings, features voices from across the province sharing stories from people behind bars. APTN's Rachel May spoke with the songwriter behind the project.
And I find everyone I've met inside has been just remarkable, remarkable beings. And we know that there's a lot of circumstances that somebody would end up with a rap sheet that eventually would end up with a sentence and jail time.
Cheryl Larondel is a singer, songwriter, and visual artist who set out to share the voices of people in the justice system through music. In the late 1990s, she performed in correctional facilities as part of the duo Nigamok, where she saw a need for incarcerated people to be able to tell their stories. She began recording songs with inmates in 2008, and by 2019 had enough material to create the album Why the Caged Bird Sings.
I call all these songs freedom songs for that reason, because it's all of the co-writers, it's their words. I didn't write any of the words, it's their words.
About 100 people co-wrote the album, with songs from correctional facilities across Saskatchewan, including Pine Grove Correctional Centre and Saskatchewan Penitentiary in Prince Albert, Okimaochi Healing Lodge on the Nikanit First Nation near Maple Creek, and the Paul Dojak Youth Detention Centre in Regina. Larondel says much of the inmates' writing shared a common theme.
You really felt that there was sort of a positive mantra that they were trying to write about what they were going to do when they got out, the life they were going to lead.
Not every song on the album comes from feeling hopeful. The song Come My Sisters Come was written by women incarcerated at Pine Grove Correctional Centre following the 2011 murder of Margaret Seawap in Prince Albert. Larondel says the song served as a way for the women to grieve and process the realities of missing and murdered Indigenous women.
And so all the women realized that really because of the precarity of their lives, that they are sort of part of that potential population.
The songs and all album artwork were created by people who are incarcerated. The album is available to stream on Spotify and SoundCloud, or for purchase on all platforms. Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
And that's all the time we have for your Saturday news. Reminder that Hockey Night in Canada in Inuktitut is back with their first show of 2026. Join our hosts tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm Savannah Kelly. Marcy Miigwech, thank you for joining us. Hope you have a great night.